All right, so let's head over to the southwest coast of Wales, to a place called Pembrey Forest. It is absolutely stunning, just gorgeous natural beauty. But you really can't let that serene landscape fool you, because it's hiding a pretty dark history, one full of conflict and tragedy, which has fueled all these stories of strange, unsettling events. It's actually earned it a reputation as one of the most haunted places in Britain. And that's really the key to understanding Pembrey, isn't it? This idea of a beautiful place hiding something terrible. The violence of its past doesn't just stay neatly in the history books. According to some people, it bleeds into the present, and it makes its presence felt in some truly terrifying ways. So if we're going to get to the bottom of the strange encounters people are reporting, we have to dig into the layers of history that are literally buried in this landscape, and it's a history that's been defined by centuries of turmoil. I mean, for over 2,000 years, this land has been a stage for conflict. You've got ancient hill forts, a Norman castle. Heck, during the Napoleonic Wars, they were worried it was going to be an invasion site. Then came the Royal Ordnance Factory, making explosives for 2 world wars. Danger and death were just etched into this place long before it became a park. You could say the very ground is saturated with the violent past. And with a history like that, you can bet the local folklore was going to be intense. Stories started bubbling up of sailors lost at sea, soldiers who never came home, and munitions workers who died in these horrific explosions. The local belief is that these people, they never really left. Their spirits are forever tied to the place where their lives were cut so short. Now, some of the most compelling modern encounters, they connect directly back to that industrial past. And these are the really chilling accounts of what witnesses have come to call the burned figures. Our first story comes from the mid-1990s, and it involves a local schoolboy named Jacob Binion. He and a friend were out exploring the old, crumbling munitions bunkers that are scattered all over the woods when, Jacob accepts a dare to go inside one of them alone. As he pushes deeper into the darkness, the whole atmosphere just gets oppressive. He described this nauseating smell, a mix of decay and chemicals, almost like something awful had been burned in there a long time ago. And then, his flashlight beam landed on it. A dark, reddish-brown stain in the perfect shape of a human handprint. It was pressed high up on the concrete wall, with these streaks running down from it. Just a chilling and completely inexplicable sight. Just moments later, Jacob was hit by this sudden, intense vision. He felt an unbearable heat, and when he looked down, he saw his own body just engulfed in flames, his clothes literally melting away to reveal burned flesh underneath. It was absolutely terrifying, and to him, it felt completely real. He scrambled out of that bunker, screaming in agony, but as soon as he was in the open air, the vision just vanished. He was totally unharmed. His friend Alan, he hadn't seen any fire at all. He just watched in shock as Jacob suddenly started thrashing around in what looked like extreme pain. Jacob's experience was absolutely horrifying, but you have to wonder, was it unique? Well, another account from years later suggests that there might be a very disturbing pattern at play in these woods. So fast forward to 2006. A man named Gareth Hughes and his daughter saw a figure on the trail ahead of them. The details are just chillingly familiar. Tattered, scorched clothing, severely burned skin, and after it vanished into thin air on an open path, a distinct smell of burning chemicals lingered. It was the same acrid odor that Jacob reported in the bunker. So we've got these accounts of human-like apparitions, and they seem tied to the site's tragic past. But that's not all. Some reports from Pembrey describe something else entirely, something that really defies any easy explanation. This next account comes from 2 highly credible witnesses, Colin Jenkins and David Evans. As forestry workers, these men knew the woods and all its wildlife inside and out. But what they saw one afternoon in the early 2000s was unlike anything they had ever encountered before. They spotted a creature standing just off the path, just watching them. It was tall, maybe 6 or 7 feet, bipedal, and covered in dark hair. But what was truly bizarre was its head. It was elongated, with a narrow muzzle and 2 very distinct horns. It just observed them for a moment before turning and vanishing silently back into the trees. And here's where it gets even stranger. The description from Pembrey is almost identical to a famous case from the 1970s up in Northumberland involving something called the Hexham Heads, a tall, horned, upright creature. The details match almost perfectly. That kind of consistency across decades and hundreds of miles, well, that's deeply unsettling. So what are we supposed to make of all this? How can we even begin to explain these bizarre and terrifying encounters? Let's take a look at some of the rational explanations that have been proposed. Okay, so for each sighting, a potential mundane explanation does exist. Jacob's vision, a panic attack, maybe triggered by mold or some old chemical residue. Garrett's vanishing figure, a trick of the light, an optical illusion. And the horned creature, well, maybe it was just a misidentified deer. Now, while these theories are plausible, they really struggle to account for all the specific corroborating details that the witnesses reported. And this brings us to the real conflict here. The witnesses were often really reluctant to share their stories because they were afraid of being ridiculed. I mean, they had nothing to gain from making this up. Yet, they remain absolutely certain of what they experienced. And that creates this gap between rational analysis and first-hand testimony that has just never been closed. Ultimately, Pembrey Forest holds its secrets really close. Are these sightings just psychological tricks, our minds playing games, amplified by a grim history? Or are they genuine encounters with something that's beyond our understanding? That's the question that continues to haunt these woods.